Well, here's some terrifying news for everybody. Every year, the Pentagon conducts an internal audit, if you will, a study, an analysis, an examination, whatever you want to call it. But they look at their own ranks, at their own members of the United States military, and they report on the extremism brewing within the ranks of the United States military. And according to their most recent audit, the results of which were released last Thursday, oopsie-doo, we seem to have a lot of people in the United States military that are actively calling for overthrowing the government of the United States. Now, when I say a lot of people, please keep in mind, it's 78. Okay, that is the exact number of people that they found. You know, God knows how many they didn't find that hold these beliefs but aren't actively posting them on social media. But I think one member of the United States military actively calling for overthrowing the United States government is too many. 78 is 78 times too many. Let me read you this. 78 service members were suspected of advocating for the overthrow of the U.S. government, and another 44 were suspected of engaging or supporting terrorism. There were 183 allegations of extremism across all the branches of military, broken down not only into efforts to overthrow the government and terrorism, but also advocating for widespread discrimination or violence to achieve political goals. The Inspector General report also included instances of alleged criminal gang activity. There were 58 allegations of gang activity across the military. These include extremist activity like being neo-Nazis, being white supremacists, anti-government movements, and that, of course, has been growing, and numerous violent plots by veterans and even active duty troops have been thwarted in recent years. I didn't know that. Like, where are the details on these plots from members of the military trying to overthrow the government that the government itself ended up thwarting? Like, kind of feels like y'all aren't giving us the full report here. We need details, and to be honest, we need people's names. Now, keep in mind, as I said, the 78 instances of overthrowing the government, the 44 instances of terrorism, the dozens of others of alleged gang activity. This is all just what was reported to military officials. So this Inspector General report did not go out there and interview people. They didn't actually launch an investigation. They just got in their database, said, okay, here's all these reports. Let's look at them. Let's count them. Boom, boom, boom. Here's your numbers. Let's go. So this is just what was reported and acted upon. There could be hundreds, there could be thousands more of these kinds of people hiding within our military, getting training, getting weapons, learning the ins and outs of sensitive, government buildings. And we only have a handful of them. And there were court-martials. There were some that were handled by, local police, depending on where they were. These people were disciplined. There were a lot of dishonorable discharges, but the number of people that were disciplined or discharged does not equal the number of people that were caught. So that's a little weird, right? We're just letting some of them go, or we're just not taking action on them. Here's what's happened. And this actually goes all the way back to the Bush administration, folks. During the Bush administration, the so-called war on terror, once it became very obvious that we had launched a full-scale invasion of Iraq based on complete and total lies, recruitment for the military dropped tremendously. George W. Bush and Dick Cheney did not have the troops necessary to continue their offensive. So what happened at the time, and we did stories about this at the time in Ring of Fire. Yes, we've been around that long. We talked about the fact, because there were reports that showed military recruiters lowered their criteria. The military itself lowered their criteria, allowing people with known criminal convictions into the military, whereas in the past they would have been kicked out or not allowed in. Same thing with, known affiliations with dangerous groups or gangs or whatever it is. They were hurting so bad for troops that they said, screw it, let's let the extremists finally join the military. And as far as I know, because there's been no follow-up reports, that policy did not change. So the problem is the recruiters are not doing their job, and that actually is mentioned in the report. The recruiters are not doing, thorough background checks because they got to meet those quotas, got to get those numbers up. So we're just letting all of these people in. And you know who this benefits, of course? The man who wants to pack the government with people that will not tell him no and basically allow him to become a dictator, Donald Trump. These are the kinds of people that Trump wants in the military. Because a lot of people have said, when I've talked about the extremism with Donald Trump and what he wants to do in the second term and how he likely wouldn't leave after the second term is over, people have said, you're getting too worked up. The military will stop him, right? They're loyal to the Constitution. Okay. Doesn't seem like it. Seems like we got a lot of folks that are in favor of overturning the U.S. government. So keep an eye on that, because if Trump gets into office, these people might not get dishonorably discharged. They may get a promotion. Hell, they may even find themselves members of his cabinet because they want, it appears, the same thing that he does.